Hello, good people. I want to take a couple of minutes and talk about scope and the notion of where to place constants within your program, because it's an error that gets repeated quite often until we lock down this notion of what scope is. Now, we all know what a constant is. You've used them since the first programs that you wrote. A constant is a fixed data values. That is, once you define or assign a value to the constant, in this case max, that value is going to stay the same throughout the execution of your program. The constant modifier prevents your program from modifying max at any point during the program. So it not only retains a value for you, but it protects that value. What happens, though, is people place those constants in different places within their program. So we need to understand the idea of scope. Scope defines the visibility or the accessibility of a data object. So in this case, we're talking about constants. And what I mean is that a constant is either globally visible or locally visible. And I'm going to give you an example in the code that follows. So if we look at this program, we see that constant max has been defined outside of the function main. And that means that max is defined in the global space. That means it is globally visible. No matter where you go within your program, and it's not very complicated here, but no matter where you go within your program, max will be visible. And so if we were to execute this program, max would be visible down here as it's executed, and it would print out to the screen. Now, we changed the program up a little bit in this example. You'll notice that max is defined within main. So it's within the curly braces in main. That means it is a locally scoped constant. And what that means when something is locally scoped, whether it is a constant in this case or a variable, is that it is only visible within the structure in which it was defined. So in this case, max would only be visible within main. Now in this program it's no big deal because whether it's global or local in this case, there's only a single function, and so max would always be visible. But now let's look at this program. Here again you notice that I've defined max in the global workspace. Now you note that we have two functions. We have first myfunc and then the main function down below that. Because I have defined this constant up here at the top between the preprocessor and the first function definition, it is globally visible. And that means when I call max here within main, the value of 10 will get substituted. And then as execution proceeds and we call my function, it is also visible within my function. Now we'll change the code up again. You'll notice that I have defined max locally within main. As I begin to execute this code, max would be visible right here when that first statement is called. But when my function gets called and execution transfers over to that function, max is no longer visible. And so if on your grade sheets that I've returned back, I've noted that you need to declare your constants in the global space, this is what I'm trying to prevent. This week in week 3, if you're looking at your program specification, you're going to notice that you have an awful lot of constants that need to be defined. You're going to want to make those globally visible so that you can see them within all the functions of your program. Finally, scope applies to variables as well as constants. And within 361, 362, 372, any of the other coding classes, we will never, never, never use global variables in any of our programs. In fact, making global variables within your program to prevent having to pass the variables as parameters to your functions is a big no-no, and you don't want to do that. So let's avoid doing that. Please let me know if you have any questions. I've included a document along with this post, so you have this in written form as well. Good luck, and I'll see you again soon.